I have with me Mansoor Ali Khan. He's an educationist, philanthropist, a politician, and he heads the school's Delhi Public School as a trustee. And we have come here to speak specifically on the education scenario in Karnataka. 2 years COVID had brought the education system to back thing, and there was only online classes. Now with regular classes starting and with exams also have been finished, Mansoor is going to give us the correct picture on what would be in store for the students in future and how the education system in Karnataka is going to take place. With all the pandemic gone and with the institutions functioning normally, how are the children coping up now, and how is the education, scenario in the state?
See, when the pandemic started 2 years back, so the schools were just going to start their exams. So none of us had even imagined that we would face this sort of a pandemic where we would not have classes for 2 years. So the schools adjusted, online classes started, and the examination patterns changed. But now we are just seeing a little silver line where we feel that the next academic year things will be normal. But in the meantime, what the pandemic has done has created a lot of this, I call it this as an unseen disaster. So where, for example, a child who was in LKG is going to be coming back to school in second standard. A child who left school at second standard is coming back to fifth standard. So where here what's happened, the children have had a learning gap. So bridging this learning gap will take a Herculean effort. If you see countries like Finland and Denmark, Sweden, the governments have had special programs for the children to cover the learning gap. And as far as India and Karnataka are concerned, I think the HRD ministry and the state education department should come up with a plan. How would they bridge this learning gap for the children?
You said a very, very relevant point. The 2 years gap, child coming from secondary, come to fifth. This 2 years is mind must become vacuum, and whatever you have to learn in the class, thing. And do you think that this state of mind as the child has been affected, or there is some phobia or type that only I'll be on online now coming to seeing a teacher is something new?
See, definitely. See, what happens when you have a kid going to school and it's stopped, and the natural tendency of a child is to go out, play, interact, and the cognitive skills also are involved.
Yeah.
So what happens when a child is forced to stay at home and the classes are online? So the child develops a sort of it's very difficult on the child. That's not the natural way. And then a lot of children have lost the touch of going to school, because when you go to school, there's a certain discipline. You get up at a certain time, you go meet, interact with people, meet different people. And in schools, you have learning skills, you talk to people, you have social skills. So all that has happened, and all this has also affected their psychological state of mind.
So do you think that in Delhi Public School keeping some specific doctors, a psychiatrist for a child where the child brain or the mind which has been distracted or some phobia, have you gone through the test?
We have identified areas where the children will need help, and we have also planned a 6-month course where this learning gap will be addressed. And in that, we have our special educators, our counselors assessing the child, and at the same time, the academic experts also assessing the child. So we have made sure that when the child comes back to school, we dedicate more resources and more staffing for the learning gap to be addressed.
How is the parents' role in all this education? Because most of the parents also are online. The child used to sleep, the parents used to come online. So do you think that parents also played a very important role, seeing that the child doesn't suffer, but at the same time now the child is suffering coming back to the school?
See, the parents also, because the pandemic affected everyone. So the parents also, a lot of them were working from home and online and all that. And they have done the best what they could do. And because for any parent, the interest is the child. And I think we should applaud the parent contribution also to this. And now since we are seeing and hoping that the pandemic is coming to an end. I won't say it's ended. We need to still be very careful about it. And there is a prospect of a fourth wave. But nonetheless, we all have to get ready and be careful and resume life as far as possible to normalcy.
The exams have taken place normally. And how do you see that a child was getting 80, 90, suddenly his marks have gone down, and a child who has not attended 2 years? How grading system?
See, what we've done.
Especially the 4th standard, 5th standard, and the 6th standard.
See, because if you say the last year was totally an online exam pattern, which was objective type. This year we've had both online and offline. So what we have done, we've done balances to the how we evaluate the child, and we've given weightages and marks and all that. So we have tried to do, I would not say there can't be any ideal situation of assessing a child in this pandemic situation, but we have tried to balance the assessments through both offline, online grading systems.
So, education policy is being changed. What are your comments on that?
See, education policy which has been changed is a welcome step, because they, for a very long time, India had not looked into its education policy. But having a policy on paper is different, and having a practical implementation. And mind you, education policy is not only for the private institutions.
It's for the government.
If the government, because if you see the education
First,
policy,
second, third,
there are a lot of government setups they have to make. Government has to do a lot of rejig within its own departments. And even for the private. And one more thing, when you want to implement the new education policy, let it be from the schooling level or to the post-graduation level, we have to be practical, where we may require, for at least the private players, will require a lot of government support.
No, but this policy has been criticized by many, because see, 8, 9, 10, then you got 11, 12, then you get a certificate, then 4 years degree course. Like first year, if I'm incomplete, I get the certificate. Second year, do you think this is going to affect? Because see, a doctor who had to become a doctor in the age of 22, 23, he'll get 24, and the marriage limit also has been raised for a girl to 21. So, do you think this education policy is one of the reasons for the marriage age also to be increased?
See, actually, if you ask me as an educationist, I welcome the education policy. If that is that on the paper,
2-3 years extra you're getting.
Yeah, see, what education policy is much larger than what we are going to be discussing here. On the paper, it looks good, but as I told you again, implementation. But there are a lot of positives, but at the same time, there are a few issues which have to be addressed. And as you said, I'm not aware about the marriage age or as such, but still nonetheless, it is easier said than done. Implementation of the education policy is a big task, where the state governments, central government have to work in unison along with the private establishments.
Your message to the teachers, even they have been offline, most of the teachers have stumbled, and most of the teachers have gone in depression, because some schools have not paid salaries. Do you think even teachers need a refreshing course, or do they also need to go to a psychiatrist, because they are the ones who are going to train their student?
See, I always tell, when we talk of COVID warriors, we put everyone, doctors, nurses, everything. In fact, I had requested our former education minister to declare teachers also as COVID warriors, but it is very unfortunate. Nothing like that happened, because what the teachers have done, managed the education system for 2 years of a country without real good support, and overnight changing into online mode. It hats off to them, and I feel they stand right at the forefront as COVID warriors. But at the same time, there were issues, because especially with the budget schools, there were issues where parents didn't pay the fees, and the fund inflow was not there to pay the teachers. Yes, a lot of teachers suffered, but nonetheless, I have total confidence in the resilience of our teachers, and I request all the private institutions, government, associations, if they require any help for any evaluation or psychiatric or psychological help, the government should come forward along with the private schools. But and one more thing, very, very important, the state government had promised financial help to the teachers, but I never saw a single rupee reach a teacher.
So, Mansoor, you now with the election, I mean, this exams finishing and results are going to come out, and there's a talk of fourth wave. Do you think again the education will suffer if something happens? God forbid, something happens.
See, definitely this is a cause of concern, the fourth wave. But now, I think the time has come. We all take precautions, help each other out, because the life has to go on, world has to go on, economy has to go on, and each one should care for the other person, mask up, try to maintain COVID protocol. And yes, there will be odd cases of COVID positive cases, and we will have to live with it till maybe another 1 or 2 years, because since mutations will be happening, and COVID is here to stay for at least some more time. So I hope we learn to cope with it, and we run the show.
Mansoor was of the view that the fourth wave, which God forbid comes, we have to take precautions. And he was of the view that the teachers should have been declared as the frontline warriors during the COVID pandemic, because they are the ones who taught the children online selflessly without taking into consideration the difficulties. And he was also of the view that the new education system policy, which the government of India has been trying to propose, should be implemented at the earliest. And he was also praises for all the teachers and the students who have come back after a gap of 2 years and trying to get back to the atmosphere of the school and the colleges. Rizwan Asad, National News.